Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome for another Tier 2 LSA Season 8 League race. This time we are racing around Miami. To be honest, I haven't personally raced this track in my league experience, but yeah, from what I've seen, it is a track that can bring quite the action if drivers can keep it very neat and tidy around the corners. But let's see who will be opting to go first on their run. Currently, I think a few drivers do have a quali ban tonight, but I think Miami is a track where safety cars can really put a damper on the race. See Snotkopper setting out for his run, and Kieran in the Kick Sauber. Very close fight between the Williams and the Kick Sauber team. And I think it's the Alpine as well for the constructor title this season. But currently, as it stands, it is Red Bull that has a comfortable, I think, a 30-point lead. And in the driver standings, it is Spikes and Boogeyman who are separated by 1 point in the championship. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't see Boogeyman yet tonight, so it might be he might be joining late. Hopefully we get to see him race tonight. That would be unsettling his points in the driver championship. But I'm going to stick with Kieran, as he is on his outlap. He will be the first guy to start his flying run of the night. I'm not sure if drivers will do a 2 push lap or 2 cool down lap and then a push lap, but yeah, as I've said, I've minimal experience around this track. I've only done time trial. It's a tricky track to get it right on the first run. Let's see, Kieran is starting his first lap. Bit of front locking, easy on the power. I know from that section it's very slippery, especially when it's the start of qualifying. He's just taking a very cautious lap. As he will be approaching a very deadly corner if you overshoot your braking point. But it doesn't look like he will be overshooting it on his first run. Keeping it very close to the wall. Nice and steady. Down into a very funky corner, which I don't understand. But that is Miami for you. Let's see what the benchmark from Kieran... Oh, sorry, it was Andre who went out first. I think I missed that. With a 27.4. And Andre qualified P2 in Japan last week. So let's see if that will be the benchmark for tonight. And Kieran will slot in a 26.8. That is a beautiful lap. So I think Andre might have gotten his first run a bit sloppy. Or he's opting for 2 push laps. Let's see who will be next across the line. I see it's Martin. And you will go 27.3. Good enough for first row at the moment. As I see a harsh driver Kev Pandey slotting it into P4. Boneless P5. The times are coming in now. Momonga slots in a 27 flat. Very good run from him. Only Kieran in a 26 so far. And Sticky Nicky just nicks second place of Momonga. That is a front row lockout so far for the Kick Sauber boys. And we see on Jake's, he has set a purple sector 2. Will he keep it together down into sector 3? And maybe split the kick Sabos or go for that pole. Very cautious entry. Not compromising his exit too much. And he will go fastest by 4/10. Current pole setter Jakes, that'll be the benchmark for the first runs of the night. Let's see, Destroyer's currently on his outlap. I don't know if you have done a cool down lap already, but I'm not sure. We're just gonna have to wait and see if your driver's gonna make their way back into the pits now. And that is a very risky move from a Monga. That is I don't think that is within the rules to join the pit lane from that side. But I'm not a steward tonight, I'm just a commentator. And see, Destroyer's on his lap currently now. Let's see what Destroyer can bring for us. He had a solid race in Japan, pulling it all the way back to snatch a podium. Let's see what his first run of the night will be. This corner will catch you out if you take it very aggressively. I think Miami is a track where it just needs to be fluent in your motions. Very long back straight. Braking on the 100-meter board. Short shifting for traction. Then downshifting to open up the corner. And Sauls, I missed that one. 26-2, and he is currently on pole position. It's a usual suspect we see there at the top. But let's see what Destroyer will put in for us tonight. Very cautious, a bit of rear sliding. And Destroyer good enough for P12. I think it was a very first caution first run from him. The two Haas boys separated by not a lot. I see Martin is back in it this week. He will be on his outlap. I wonder, Snotkop is on his run at the moment. He's currently flying down the back straight in sector 3, opening up that DRS. Has a lot of battery to play with at the end of the line. Where will Snotkop put his Aston Martin, as it is a very close fight in the constructors between 4 teams. Good enough for P14. Let's hop onto Martin. Let's say he can put his Ferrari. I think he's one of the guys who went for an early second run. There's a few cars starting their laps now. Hard braking. Keeping it very close. Short shifting for traction, maybe downshift to open up the diff. Keeping it very smoothly away from the barriers. He sets purple sector 2. So will we see a mid 26 from Martin tonight? As he just needs to keep it cool, calm and collected for the final few corners. He does not have a lot of battery left to play with. But he will be draining that battery and he will put his Ferrari into P5. That's good enough for 26.9. Few drivers in the 26s. I think coming in of qualifying, the top 10 might have reached the 26s, but so far it's looking very, very close for pole position. Momonga's also up on his time. Let's see what Band-Aid can slot in. Just a bit of an improvement on his time. Sense of fault getting into the passes here. McLaren, I think it is Scully, who will be crossing the line next. Will he have an improvement on his time? Yes, that'll be good enough for P8. Andre is about to start his next flying lap. As we see an Alpine crossing the line. Or Williams, I'm not sure. Bit confused by the color of the constructor team. Need to keep an eye on Jakes as he starts his next flyer. He will be trying to put in a banker lap to get that pole position, so he does not have to stress for the final run where he can just send it. But let's keep an eye on Andre as he comes flying through sector 2, hard braking, catching the apex, keeping it very nice and sidey towards the wall. Uphill braking, down into second, maybe short shift for traction, good exit, but it is almost half a second up on his time, so he made a big error maybe. It's very easy to lose all your time in one corner. Paul is also down on his time. I think it is Jakes who is up on his time by 1.5 tenths, so he just needs to keep it clean. He sets a purple sector 2. If he can keep it clean, he can maybe challenge Souls for pole. But this is where the men are separated from the boys, who can keep it cool, calm and collected. And that looks like a very good exit from Jakes as he crosses the line. But it's only a marginal improvement because he did run out of battery. But still, there's a lot of daylight between the top 2 and the rest of the field. Stikiniki up on his time, only marginal, fighting Martin for that P5 spot. Snotkop, what will he give us? He will push Scully down into P9. All the drivers are heading back to the pits to slap on the final fresh pair of boots. But will Jakes make it back to the pits in time to get another flyer out? Let's see who's on track. Snotkop is doing this. Is out lap. That fuel is flashing, so I don't think he is on a flying final run. If he is, not sure. He's not using any of that battery. Moose, he opted to start his final run of the night, and he is 4 tenths up on his time. Will he be able to challenge for a P5, a P4 spot? It's a very familiar face to fight in the midfield pack. Will the Aston keep out of the way? Brilliant from the Aston driver. And Moose is comfortably through this sector, keeping it very smooth. A bit of rear wheel spin, but he's almost a second up on his time. So this is looking up for Moose. Let's see if his ERS can hold on. Does his ERS have the legs to reach the line? And Moose will put it in P4. A brilliant final run from him. Let's hope the other drivers get a moment so Moose can snatch that P4 for the starting position of the race. A few drivers opted to go out early on their final run. They don't want any traffic, but this might cause a bit of traffic as a few drivers are going out now. Spikes, one of the drivers to keep an eye on tonight, he is currently separated by a point with Boogeyman in the driver championship. Salt is keeping it very late in the pit, so he thinks he has got pole position and he's feeling very comfortable. Martin about to start his final flying lap. Let's see what Momonga is up to. Usual suspect to fight in the front as well. But let's see if we can keep it together on Miami. Unsettling the car just a bit with that entry into the corner. Keeping it in fourth. Late braking, that will overshoot his corner, that will cost him some time. And he's keeping it in fourth to stabilize the rear end. He is 2/10 up unfortunately on his time by overshooting that point. Kieran about to start his lap as well. Martin, he is 2/10 up on his time. He will be fighting Spikes and Moose for that P4 spot, and Kieran. It's a massive dogfight up until P3. Martin has a lot of time to play with, but he is using that battery a lot on this straight. And in my opinion, I would have just saved it, exiting the final corner, and he's got a bit of oversteer. Oh, that is unlucky. That will cost him some time to snatch the point, and I think that's Momonga out. That is an improvement, but just minor. Let's see what Spikes is up to. Spikes is 4/10 up. He will be challenging second place. Sticky Nicky with a brilliant lap as well. Let's see where Spikes puts his Red Bull, and that's good enough for P3. Jake's currently on his final run. He sets a purple sector 2. It's now or never, but his ERS is running very low, and that's wall touch. A little bit of Max Verstappen from Jake's. I think that will be Sal's. That is very close. I think if he had a bit more ERS left, he maybe would have snatched pole there, but Sal's brilliant to get pole for tonight in the Williams. But the Kicksaba boys, P4 and P5 in qualifying, it's looking very good for their constructor fight against Aston Martin and Alpine. Very solid performance by the tier 2 guys tonight. Very sad to see Boogeyman is not in the lobby. I think he might have a late join to the party. But nonetheless, if Boogeyman can join, any points will help his fight in the championship. But I'm gonna have a short break before the race, so I'll check you guys in a few. Alright, welcome back everyone. I see in the Discord that we will be having lights out at any moment now. As we know, EA, there's no official countdown. It's just the screen, then it's 5 lights and then we go. And I have confirmation that Boogeyman has joined the lobby, so he will maybe put on a show for us tonight from the back. Maybe pulling a little bit of a Max Verstappen move. And here we go, ladies and gents. That is 5 lights. And away we go, and Salt's getting a very good pull away. Jake's covering off the inside line from the Red Bull. 2 kick Sabers getting through cleanly. A few positions changed down. I see Andre gaining a position on Martin already. Oh, and that's a big collision. Losing a bit of front wing damage. Drivers bumping wheels. And there is 2 Astons giving it all. And that is not go out in sector 1. So far everyone got through unscathed, besides a few front wings that got chowed in the first few corners. And I think Panda has suffered the most from the start of the race. But so far Sal's and Jake's, the top 3, keeping it very cool, calm and collected. There is your possible race strategies for tonight. Medium to hard, you can opt for 1 stopper or you can go for 2. As from my experience, I have no idea what strategy to use, but I think there might be a threat of rain in the race tonight. As I see, it's very overcast. And the Kick Saber will make a move down on the inside on spikes. And he will snatch that position. Getting early track position on spikes. But let's see, Boogeyman is not a driver for Ferrari, but he will be for tonight. There's already penalties being dished out to Sense of Fault. Bit on the harsh on the curbs. Tires are still very cold. It's gonna take a while for the tires to ramp up with an overcast. But I have no doubt Boogeyman will be making a few moves on Destroyer, but the longer he stays stuck behind Destroyer, and once DRS opens up, you will have to do a lot of chasing. And there we have it. Boogeyman is gonna go down on the outside on Destroyer, and Destroyer is not gonna let this one go. He's gonna fight it, but not too hard. Bit of wheel banging, but the Ferrari got through unscathed at the moment, and he's setting chase for Boneless tonight. And at the front, Sals is pulling a bit of a gap on Jake's, but he's still in that DRS. And look at Kieran, he will go down on the inside on the McLaren driver, but the McLaren driver will pull a switch back and they will be racing towards the line. But it seems like Kieran has made it stick, but the McLaren might come back at him into turn 1. Now he lives to fight another day. But Kieran is feeling it in that Kick Saber tonight. He's feeling Miami. This will be very good constructor points for Kick Saber if both drivers can keep it together. Momonga makes another position change on Scully. As we can see, the track looks very cold, and on that hard tires it's gonna take a few laps to warm up, but he will be a sitting duck in that DRS. And Boogeyman is being fought by Destroyer, losing the place again. But let's give it a few laps time for everyone to get stuck in. Laying down some rubber. Do we see Scully making the move on Momonga on this back straight? And Bonus will be joining the party, but I think he's gonna opt this lap out. Oh, there's a bit of late braking. Compromising his exit, and Spikes putting in the fastest lap of the race at the moment. And we see Spikes battling the Kickshaber through turn 1. This is some beautiful racing, mounting that gap, but that'll compromise his run down into the final part of Sector 1. And McLaren right on his diffuser. But Salt has broken that DRS, and he will just be coasting now at front, saving that medium tires and maybe opting for a one-stopper. But let's see if Spikes can maybe pull this one back. Yes, as we can see, Kieran is harvesting that ERS. He's just setting up maybe for the back straight to maybe get that position back. This will be a cat and mouse race all the way down to the checkered flag if drivers can keep it clean with no safety cars. Very cautiously through the Sector 2. Sal's losing a bit of time to Spikes, and Skilly getting handed a 3-second time penalty. But Kieran, has he got enough ERS to maybe make a move, or he maybe will set this lap out? And Jakes is just biding his time. He's not wasting any tire wear because he knows he's on the hard sides, and he knows he's has a longer stint. So we're just gonna make sure these guys in front of him battle it out, overheating those tires, and maybe wait for an error on one of the drivers. Let's see, Moose, he had a very good qualifying, and he is on the rear end of the Kickshaber. This is a very close fight for P2 at the moment, just a long DRS train. And Sal's losing time to Spikes. I think Spikes' tires is getting into temperature with that setup he's running tonight. Will Spikes be able to close that second gap down? And yes, will he just keep it clean to make sure he catches the slipstream and the DRS of Sal's on the back straight? And Jakes, that is unfortunate for him. Now he must attack as much as he can, because currently with that 3 seconds it won't mean much in P4. And Sal's was just saving his battery to pull away from Spikes on the back straight. The drivers here at the back are starting to build a gap between each other. It's very unlucky for the Aston Martin boys, because they are in such a close fight in the constructors. And to see them both down at the bottom of the log at the moment, it's very heartbreaking. And Moose running a bit wide. I think that will be a track warning if he doesn't keep it clean. I don't know how many warnings he has at the moment, but a few more of those, he will be given a black and white flag. There's a position change, and Kieran is being attacked by Jakes at the moment. I think the hard tires are starting to come into play at the moment. That's a bit of a wide line Jakes took. He just needs to keep it within a second of Spikes. He overshot his corner. This will compromise his exit, and he's being attacked by Kieran. That will free up the air behind Spikes. Now there's a second gap. And just like that, Spikes will now be getting it on with Sals. He doesn't need to worry about any drivers behind him at the moment, unless he makes a mistake. But he needs to get in that DRS of Sals. It's very crucial, so Sals can pull him along. Few positions change at the back here. Momonga and Skelly fighting it out. And the Kicksub of Sticky Nicky is dropping down a bit. And losing another one to Boogeyman. Boogeyman is right back into this. And there goes the Kicksub of Sticky Nicky. That's very unfortunate to see from him, but at least his teammate is making up some ground. So far, no real threat of a safety car. And Boogeyman is just sitting after Boneless. He needs to get these drivers in front of him. And we already see another position change from Kieran and Jakes. From the back straight, Moose is just biding his time. Will we see an attack from Moose on the back straight? Does he have enough ERS to maybe put Kieran in his mirrors for another lap? But this will be an interesting fight to see what Boogeyman will pull off. And Spikes, he made a pass on Sauls. That is what you like to see. The two front runners getting at it. No one is running away from this race at the moment. We have a Red Bull leading the Miami Grand Prix in Tier 2 tonight. And more position change, and Moose is making those attacks on Jakes. Jakes falling down a bit, but he is fighting it back. And Spike's getting all bent out of shape. I think those tires are maybe overheating, or they're coming near the cliff. Moose, that is ambitious from Moose. Very ambitious. And if Kieran can just keep it together through the next sequence of corners, then he can maybe break that DRS to Jakes. And then he can maybe set on to catch the two front runners at the moment. But there's a lot of rear locking going on. And Boogeyman, he is just biding his time. He made some real light work of Boneless at the moment with that penalty. So let's see if he can catch Scully on this back shot, but I think he's out of DRS at the moment, so I don't think there will be any moves. He will just close the gap down. And Moose, I don't think he will be attacking Jakes down into turn 1, but he's making sure Jake sees his car. Drivers are sliding around now. I don't know if the track is getting any temperature. I don't really see a racing line forming that quickly, but these curbs can be brutal coming the end of your stint. Moose setting up the exit to catch Jakes on this straight. Keeping in the slipstream of the Kicksaba, but this will be a fight. Will Jakes let this one go? Yes, he will. And now Moose can focus on Kieran. He needs to make use of the final fuel life the medium tire has, and Jakes gets slapped with another 3-second time penalty. I think he is standing on 6 currently. Jakes is out of the equation for a podium because you cannot remove your 3-second time penalty in the pits. And Sauls making a move on the Red Bull again, but Spikes, he will be trying to fight this one back. Will he? Yes, he will take it down into turn 1. And Sauls not really fighting that one back. He will just save up his ARS coming the back straight in sector 2. And Martin has joined the mix. He will be thinking, oh, and Jake's having a bit of a snap. And that will leave room for the Ferrari driver to come through and snatch that DRS and maybe set onto it to Moose. And Saul's overtaking Spikes again. I would have maybe left it for the final straight in sector 3 to make sure he gets some clear air. Because now these boys are just trading positions at the moment. And Moose is currently up into the podium positions, snatching that P3 spot from Kieran. But nonetheless, this will be a dogfight. And I wonder who will pull the trigger first coming at the pit stop window. Spike's taking it back round the outside, but Salz is fighting it. And the Red Bull driver goes down on the inside, and it's a repeat like the previous lap. Salz will be fighting this into turn 1. And Kieran getting that position back from Moose. Bit of rear wheel spinning. As for our drivers, down the order, few penalties being dished out and big gaps created between them. I think Sticky Nicky has pitted, I'm not sure. Yes, he has pitted. I think he might be opting for a late safety car maybe, because this will be a very long stint on the hard tires. Positions change at the moment will be Boogeyman is currently settling down into P8. I think he can't make up that much ground at the moment because of the tire wear and the cold track. And Saints, yeah, I think he will be removing that 10 seconds time penalty when his pit window opens. Let's keep an eye on Martin, who just passed Kieran. But Kieran will be coming back. And Martin making a move on Moose. And it's now Martin's turn to race in P3. And who pulled the trigger? Salts and Spikes both pulled the trigger. This will cause a chain reaction in the field. Let's see who will pit between Martin, Moose, Kieran and Jakes. These four are just fighting it out. I just really wish Jakes didn't have that 6-second time. And now Moose gets slaps with a 3-second time penalty. So currently it's Martin and Kieran who has the advantage. But Moose will be coming down on the inside on Kieran. Oh, and there's contact. There's contact. Jake's getting bent out of shape to avoid the collision. But I don't see any damage on the front wings of the Kick Sauber and the V-carb. Martin coming blasting down the final straight. Will he pull the trigger for this pack to pit? And Martin loses it. And he takes out the V-carb driver. That is unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I think his rear wheels really got overheated in that sector 2. And he maybe should have just eased on the throttle exiting that corner. But now let's keep an eye on Spikes and Salsa. Spikes is currently in the net lead. And this opens the door for Boogeyman to gain some ground. Maybe get on with it in fresh air, catching Momonga. But I'm curious to see, will he stay out long enough? Or will he pull the trigger now and just put on fresh rubber and just maybe undercut Momonga and Jakes? So far Moose stuck behind Panday. I haven't seen a lot of the Haas boys this race, but I'm sure with all these penalties flowing, if they can just keep it clean, they will maybe jump a few spots if they are close enough. The two Aston boys are just praying for a safety car, and Martin almost gave them one. Martin finally heading into the pits. There goes Spikes and Sauls, blasting down the main straight. Boogeyman is in the pits, he pulled the trigger for himself. Now let's see where he will come out. From the back of the field into P6, Boogeyman, he has a final stint to catch maybe 15 seconds to the front runners. Give or take his outlap if he can. Maybe pull in quick sectors or just ease in the tires so it doesn't fall off the cliff coming end of the race. Currently battle at the front between Spikes and Sauls. I think they're just waiting it out at the moment. Let's see what Boneless can do on Sensor here. Sensor still has that penalty. Boneless in the Williams making a very good move, and we see a few drivers battling it out. Kicksabo of Sticky Nicky joining as well as Scully in the McLaren. And the Haas goes wide, and I see some damage. I think it was from the Red Bull that I saw an end plate flying. Or it might be my eyes deceiving me or someone else, but I did see a piece of carbon fiber coming off, and that is very brave from the Kicksabo. Braking so late and lunging down on the outside. But he made it work. But it's him without the end plate, and he has opted to stay out and race. And that compromised the braking point for the Red Bull driver, who got unsettled, and Scully might capitalize on this one. Let's see on the front, Spikes here. Will he battle Sauls down into sector 3? Keeping it very nice and tidy. No track limits from them at the moment. And I think Spikes will snatch P1 from Sauls on this straight, or he will just play it safe and just wait it out coming end of the race, and maybe just play with Sauls to force him into an error. But as I say that, he needs to make sure he doesn't make a mistake. Martin is coming past Moose now, who has that penalty, but Martin causing that collision. I think it will be reviewed in the steward's office. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is racing and you need to keep your car under control. Very heartbreaking to see Martin losing the rear, causing that collision, because this might affect his result coming in a few days time after the results are posted by the FIA. And Spikes all over the gearbox of Sauls. We will see a position change coming very soon, and Sauls will attack him on the back straight again, because I don't think Sauls like to sit in the dirty air of this Red Bull, especially on a day like today where it's very overcast. But I do see the track warming up a bit. There's a lot of traction now coming out of the slow corners. But Salt is very close to the Red Bull driver. But I don't think he will be using his battery. You can hear a little bit of downshift. He doesn't want to overtake him just yet. He's gonna maybe save his battery and wait for a mistake. Jake's still keeping it out there on the hard tires. Let's see if he has the pace to maybe clear some marginal seconds, so his penalty won't be that harsh to his result coming end of the race, but he is sliding all over the place. A lot of close racing action down in the mid-pack. Sticky Nicky, he is keeping his nose clean, but he needs to get past these drivers who has penalties. He needs to help out his teammate in the constructor fight, because Red Bull, by the looks of it, can run away throughout the season. And Sal's getting that position back from Spikes. One of the Haas drivers just slotted in the fastest lap of the race of a 28.9, going to Cav Panday. Sticky Nicky is just dropping back. I'm not sure why he hasn't gone to pit, but I think he's just maybe waiting it out to change that front wing on the safety car. Currently Andre into P15. That is a point to his name and to the team. Fighting from the graveyard, the Aston Martin boys. Snodcop having a very lonely race down in P17. Boneless taking on Destroyer. And Boogeyman, the man to watch. He did not have a qualifying session. He did join late, but he is in P6. He is chasing after Kieran. And if he can get the overtake done, he can set off the Jakes and then the front runners. And he makes the pass on the Kick Sauber. This is some brilliant racing from Boogeyman tonight, especially after a disappointing result in Japan, where he lost the car and pinned it a bit in the wall. And it touched the wall, but that will affect his tire wear, so he needs to be more cautious. As a driver, I understand you need to attack as hard as you can to fight for the win and to fight Spikes in your championship fight, but if you touch the wall like that, you will have more tire deg than the other drivers, and that will affect the end of the stint. But Momonga, he decided to pit. Let's see where he will come out, because Boogeyman, he has a few seconds to catch up to Jakes now. The Mercedes driver will come out in P8, and he will sit after Moose and Martin on a fresh set of boots. 10 laps on the mediums. I think he will catch Moose in a jiffy. But Spikes and Salt are just going at it. They're just trading the positions at the front, keeping it clean at least. So one of these drivers will prefer to be the hunter, and we will only see which one of these drivers will pull it off coming at the end of the race, because there are 3 DRS zones, and it all comes down to who can play your DRS to a T, so you make sure you can overtake on the final back straight and not mess it up in sector 2. Salt's keeping it very clean. And Boogeyman, he is having a fight with Kieran at the moment. Kieran is not letting this one go. He's making sure Boogeyman pulls him along for the fight. But I think Boogeyman is losing a bit of time to Jakes, as Jakes has slotted in the fastest lap. If I just missed that, not sure. Yes. So Boogeyman needs to put in some work now, but he needs to look after the front and rear right tires, because he did scathe the wall in sector 2 or in sector 3. But Jakes did have a magnificent first stint to gain those marginal seconds to make sure his 6-second time penalty does not have that much of an impact at the end of the race. But by the looks of it, I don't think Boogeyman will be much of a problem, because Jakes is dropping Boogeyman by a bit. I think that was a full half second through those sequence of corners. Destroyer being overtaken by Scully. But I think Destroyer will jump a few drivers to P9. Momonga making the move on Martin. Very close racing between the Mercedes and the Ferrari driver. Sticky Nicky with that missing end plate. He's gonna come down on the inside. He will force this move. Momonga says the fastest lap of the race. But will the harsh driver let this one go? He will let that one go and live for another day. Back into front. These guys are just clearing Jakes at the moment, but it's a consistent gap. But Jakes is clearing Boogeyman, but from the back to P4 is still a proper result, because at the moment Jakes has cleared 6 seconds to Boogeyman, so that will be his P3 spot. And that will be a monumental result for the McLaren driver tonight. I do not know why Boogeyman is dropping off so far currently. I think it's just that scave against the wall that's affecting his grip around the slow speed corners. I think that's where he's losing most of his time. The fight between Momonga and Martin is still going strong. Sticky Nicky having a bit of understeer. And Jakes, as I say that, gets another 3-second time penalty, so now he needs to pull 9 seconds to Boogeyman to make sure he keeps P3, because currently now Boogeyman, he doesn't need to catch Jakes. He just needs to stay within 9 seconds. But by the pace Jakes is going, he's just closing the gap now to Spikes as well. So maybe if he doesn't have those penalties, he maybe could have fought for the lead and maybe the race win. But Miami is very vicious on track limits. And Momonga has currently dropped Martin out of the second gap, so he will not have DRS on this back straight. Currently the only action really going on is between the top 2 and 10th and 11th place, but now Destroyer has dropped back a bit. I think it's due to the fighting to Sticky Nicky. And Sticky Nicky will make a move on Destroyer. And there he goes with that missing end plate. Will he keep it clean? Yes, he does, but while Destroyer is fighting Sticky Nicky, the gap is getting ever bit more to the McLaren driver of Scully. But now, let's see what the front runners will do once Jake's catch up, because he is just absolutely flying out there. Yes, dropped Boogeyman now by 8 seconds. Back mark is getting out of the way very cleanly. Very unfortunate to see an Aston Martin driver at the back tonight. But he's praying for no safety car coming at the end of the race, because that will mean he will jump down the order with the rest of the guys who has penalties. But by the looks of it, if Souls and Spikes crash into each other, then Jakes might snatch the win with a 9-second penalty, but I doubt that will happen tonight. But once Jakes joins the party, he's gonna unsettle the fight and the mind games between Souls and Spikes. Kieran is just being pulled along by Boogeyman, but is he being pulled along enough? It's Scully fighting Boneless down into turn 1 on the outside. Will he do a cutback? Not into turn 1, it's too risky. Sticky Nicky and Destroyer just going at it, they're sliding around the corners. Let's see, Kieran will not overtake Boogeyman. He will just bide his time. Maybe wait for a slip up. And Jakes has now broken that 9 seconds. It jumped down to 8.8, but no doubt in a few laps time the 9 seconds, there won't be any problem for Jakes anymore. And Sticky Nicky taking on Destroyer again. These two are just going at it. They're fighting just outside of the top 10. Currently no action at the back between Andre and Snotkop. They are the lone wolves for this race due to the race start. Very unfortunate, and in Miami it is so difficult to climb your way back without any assisting of the DRS. And Boogeyman has left the session. I think he got a disconnect. That is very unfortunate. If I only could have invited him, but I don't have him as a friend, so if one of the admins or retirees can help him out getting back into the race. But this is Boogeyman out, but his AI is racing for him. Or have you managed to get back into the car? I'm not sure. That is so unfortunate. But now Jakes doesn't have any pressure from the back, and he has joined the top 3 for the final few laps of the Miami Grand Prix. And we see both Ferrari drivers now, but the AI is racing for Boogeyman. There is caution in sector 3. Who is that? That is Spikes. I wonder what happened there. Just as I called it, once Jakes joins the party, he will unsettle the fight in the front with his 9 seconds penalty. He wants to finish first on track. It doesn't matter if he will drop down a few positions. He wants to claim the rightful position on track, but with crossing the white line so many times, that will affect his result inevitably. And there is caution in sector 1. And a few guys spinning around. The Aston Martin driver of Snotcorp getting bent all out of shape. But let's see what the front runners will do now. It's only 4 laps remaining. Salz needs to make sure that Jakes does not hold him up too much with that penalty. But as long as Jakes is between Salz and Spikes, that is a very good buffer, and that's exactly where he wants him to be. Destroyer and Sticky Nicky still battling it out. They're having their own fun little race here. Trading position, and that is Sticky Nicky driving to the back of Destroyer. Let's hope Destroyer does not have a puncture. By the looks of it, that rear left tire is fine, but that will be more damage to Sticky Nicky, and that is very unproficient driving. I think Sticky Nicky might just have to opt into the pits and maybe nick the fastest lap. Moose getting served with another 3-second time penalty, so by the looks of it, Boogeyman's AI will be finishing the race for him. I think Snotkop, he is coming into the pits. Maybe you will be opting for snatching the fastest lap, which it won't count if you don't finish inside the top 15 in LSA. Changing that front wing. Salz is currently making mincemeat of Jakes at the moment. And Spikes is struggling to catch the front runners again, just because the DRS is so powerful around here. And Kieran is all over the back of Momonga, weaving on the back straight. He's just waiting. There's only 2 more laps left. Who will pull the trigger on the ERS and who will make the heroic move for the final few points? And Kieran having a look down on the inside, wanting to force the Mercedes driver into a mistake, but it looks like the Mercedes driver has more grip than the hard tires. Martin sitting comfortably in P6, but we all saw that collision earlier in the race, so that will affect his position. And Jakes is not fighting this one too hard. But if Momonga can keep up his pace, he can maybe snatch 3rd place from Jakes. I don't know if he knows that just yet, but if he does, it'll be a lot of added pressure, and he's pulling Kieran along with him, so he needs to make sure he can attack and defend coming the final lap. See Boneless fighting with Skilly. Final lap has started, and Salz, he just needs to bring it home now. He doesn't need to fight Jakes anymore. If Jakes wants to overtake him, he can, because he knows Jakes has that 9-second time penalty. This is very brilliant racing from Salz tonight. He had pole position and now he's looking to bring it home. And almost a full sweep, if only he had the fastest lap as well. But I'm curious to see if Kieran can make a move on Momonga, because if I can add the time up, I think Momonga might snatch P3 off Jakes. Kieran is just biding his time for the final straight, reserving that battery, but he needs to get closer, because that medium tire has more traction in the slower corners than the hard tire at the moment. And it's all come down to the final straight, and Momonga is deploying that ERS. Will Kieran catch him by the end of the final straight? But Sauls, he is your Miami Grand Prix winner. Get in there, Sauls. Beautiful. Jake's crossing the line in P2 and Spike's P3. But what will happen between Momonga? Momonga will keep Kieran off, and that will be P4 and P5. Beautiful result for the Kicksaba driver. Martin coming in home in P6. Moose, also another fantastic race from him. Just a bit getting bent out of shape with the time penalties. Boogeyman, very unfortunate with that connection. As for the rest of the field, 2 McLarens in the top 10, looking very good for the constructors. As for the Williams as well, Destroyer coming home in P11. Sticky Nicky. Haven't seen a lot of rated from this race, but very good work from the Mercedes drivers tonight and the Haas boys. As coming the tail enders for tonight's Grand Prix. Very unlucky for the Aston Martin boys, but I'm sure they will bring it back next week. But what a Max Verstappen performance by Sauls, keeping it nice and clean. Very curious to see what happened between Jake, Spikes and Sauls at the final corner. But driver of the day will go to Boogeyman, as he has started from the back. Very unfortunate that he lost connection. EA is taking their sweet time for the loading screen, as I need the results for the FIA. Very good performance from the top 3 drivers, and Jakes was on an absolute rocket ship tonight. Mamonga's nicking fastest lap. Everyone opting for 1-stoppers besides Snotcorp. Didn't have a very good race tonight. Lot of warnings and penalties being dished out. But congratulations for Sauls. That'll be very good for his championship points and Spikes. And I think Spikes will be leading the championship going into next week. Very unfortunate for Boogeyman. But everyone, thank you so much for joining me in the comms box tonight. I really appreciate the support and the love that I'm getting from everyone. But for the weekend ahead, be safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.